So most of the time now, for me, I think it's about where I see people doing what lights them up, what feels like flow, doesn't feel like effort. They get so much joy, fulfillment, and fun out of it. And so they're like, if I could just do more of that, I'd be really happy. So I think the passion's really about doing what you find fun, fulfilling, and you feel like gives you a lot of freedom to do and to be fully self-expressed in what you do.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Passion Institute podcast. I'm so excited to have somebody on today who I've now known for on and off for quite a few years. I remember seeing her on stage. I remember meeting her through PSA or Professional Speakers Association. And Jane is one of those people that weaves in and out of my life. I see her impacting so many people, and I'm really excited to have her on the podcast today. Now, her CV is huge. There's a lot of things that she has achieved, but let me tell you a little bit about her. She's a strategic communications expert. She's got over 20 years of experience in corporate communications, personal branding, business growth, and she's now worked with almost 200,000 people, especially women, to build trust and influence their businesses as well as their brands. She has also been voted as the top 3 branding gurus globally, and she's won over 70, that's 70 sales, branding, marketing, and business coaching awards, including one a week or so ago. She's also got the top 1% of most views LinkedIn profiles. She's the host of the iTunes podcast, the Jane Anderson Show. She's interviewed people like Seth Godin. Her clients include some of the world's leading experts in their field, including Virgin Australia, Lego, IKEA, Rio Tinto, and the list goes on. And the last thing I need to tell you about her is that she's an author of 14 books, including Women with Influence and How 12 Leading Women Build a Successful World-Class Corporate Consulting Practice. Jane, welcome.
Thank you, Shivani. I'm so excited to be here and to work with and hang out with you.
Oh,
It never seems to be long enough when we catch up.
I know. I recently saw you at the convention, and there never is
Yeah,
there?
that's
Well, today I get to kind of find out more about you, even though, as I said in my intro, I see you on the periphery of so many different things and different people. And congratulations on your recent award as well.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a lot of fun. It was really nice to. My husband was with me that night, and it's always nice to celebrate with people around you.
Yeah, awesome. Well, the first thing, seeing that we talk about Passion Institute here, is I want to know kind of what this word passion like means for you, Jane, and what does it hold in your work, maybe even personally. We'd just love to sort of hear more about your views on this word passion that we use a lot here.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I remember when I worked in a role when I was head of capability at Super Retail Group for many years, and it was always interesting. This was one of the values for the organization, and we'd see it was the question I always asked at interview because you would have the rev heads, you had the cycle heads, you had the fishing crew, and so a lot of this passion came out of hobbies, and they were sort of people who were working in an industry associated with their hobby. And so, that's where you got the passion, the energy, the drive, the enthusiasm, the fun, that they really, you got to see people who were really passionate about what they did. And that sort of drove me to, I guess the work I do and helping people. I started off in working with careers and seeing people love what they do. And so today, when I look at the type of people particularly people like you that are experts in their field, it's generally that they like to do the fun things that they've enjoyed in their careers. And so most of the time now, for me, I think it's about where I see people doing what lights them up, what feels like flow, doesn't feel like effort. They get so much joy, fulfillment, and fun out of it. And so they're like, if I could just do more of that, I'd be really happy. So I think the passion's really about doing what you find fun, fulfilling, and you feel like gives you a lot of freedom to do and to be fully self-expressed in what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also noticed that a lot of people that we've had on the podcast here, Jane, talk about this flow state, right? That when you're doing something that brings you joy, that you find fun, you are kind of in that flow state. Jane, I want to switch gears for a second and talk a bit about, like, I think often the best way to find out about people are finding about some of those really big challenges in their life, when you're at kind of at your low points, and how you overcome some of that transform you into who you are. So
Yeah.
take us through a couple of those points that were pretty challenging and like how did that transform you into who you are today?
Yeah, I think probably, oh, look, there's always interesting things. I think probably two of the biggest challenges, I think one that was, probably, what's that, 10 plus 13 years ago now, 15 years ago now, was going through a divorce. That certainly was a really challenging time. I remember finding that really hard. I had to move back in with my parents at 30 years old. And, that's really character building, isn't it? So thankfully I have wonderful parents. But I remember at the time though, it was the GFC. So it was around 2011. And I'd been doing a lot of career work and capability and helping people get their jobs and whatever. But at the time, going through divorce, moving back in with my parents back home, and I couldn't get a job. And, I remember my mother saying to me at the dining table, I don't know what you're doing, but it's not working. And, I felt like the biggest imposter because I thought, well, here it is, like this is the work I do and help people, and now I can't seem to make this happen myself. So, but I think the thing that got me through that was my mother said to me, "Well, what would you do if you were coaching someone?" And she just said, and I was, I think when you're going through divorce and, starting life again, I had to leave my job and leave the town where I was and so just going, you know what, I've got to get outside myself and go, okay, I've got the skills here. I've actually just got to be proactive and go and find. And so what I did was I went and found who would be the dream job. Like mum got me to do my vision board. She's like, just do all the things you would tell someone to do. And I went and I reached out to a company that I thought would be a good fit and said, would you take my meeting? Give me 10 minutes. I reckon I'm a good fit for you, and pitched, and they took me on. So I think what I learned from these challenges, and I think over years, is that I don't sit back and wait for something to happen. I've only ever had one job where I was part of a normal recruitment process. Every other field or role that I've had has always been just making it happen and helping people see the value I could bring, and they've made a job available or made something happen. And then the second time was that I had a physical incident. I was at a pub here in Brisbane once, and I was attacked in a pub, and it was a glass. It was across a glass, a whole lot of. It was a table with all glasses on it, and there was a bit of an argument going on, and was with the crowd I was with, and got out of hand, and I got pushed across a table, and there were all glasses across the table, and just in that moment I thought I was going to be cut on my arms and wrists, and I went flying across the table. The glasses went everywhere, and I didn't think anything of it at the time, but a year later, I was diagnosed with PTSD. And so I had a lot of flashbacks and things that were going on. And it was hard because I was still facilitating, delivering workshops and all those sorts of things, and trying to show up with, the energy and compassion and empathy for everybody. But what it taught me is experts, get the right people around you, get help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I think sometimes you can always feel like you're the one that's always the helper. You're the person who has to be the leader and be strong. But it certainly taught me that sometimes you just need to ask for help yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't realize that. That's a story that I haven't heard, from you before. And how wonderful your mother is, right? I mean, what great thing to say. Hey, what would you say if you were coaching these people? And I remember hearing this saying many years ago that said, teach what you need to learn.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think it works in reverse there, reverse there. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I think it's interesting, isn't it, whether you look at the word resilience or you look at other things, but they become pretty transformative parts of, who you are and what you do.
Yeah.
Um, you help lots of business owners and consultants and coaches like set up their businesses, set up their systems. I see you running content creation days, et cetera, as well. And so, and obviously you've got your own team. So what are a couple of tips that you've got in terms of how do we create people that work in our teams, whether you're doing that with your team or when you're working with some of your clients, what are some of the tips that you go, how do we create people that are really motivated, that deliver, that are held accountable, that are passionate? Share a couple of those tips in terms of what you do to make sure that they're delivering.
Yeah, I think a few things come back to really who you are as the leader and the recruiter, how you show up. I think sometimes, when people can see what you do, I find when I go to recruit, the comments I always get was, I went on your website, I was so inspired, this looks amazing. So I think if you can be visible, be transparent, and have things like, your face, videos, things that people can access, that inspire them to go, wow, I would love, we know that particularly for recruiting a team, is that they want to work with a leader who has a vision, and we know that they can, if they can buy into that. So they need you to lead. They're like, I'll happily jump on as long as I can see you've got a vision and you know where you want to go. So I think that's number one, is how are you articulating what you do, and what are you doing to make it inspiring for people to want to work with you? And my EA, Gemma, who's wonderful, she reached out to me for that reason. She didn't find a job. She just saw my profile. She was working for someone in Canada at the time, and that person was going to be closing their business. And they said so Gemma was sort of looking for someone similar to her, but she wanted to work on Australian time zone. And when she saw me, she went, that's what I'm trying to find. So be a magnet is what I would say. And then the second thing I think is um, uh, being interested in them. So being curious about their family, what they like doing outside of work. I'm always interested to know what is the vision for their future, and what does 5 years look like for them. And sometimes I might find it hard, but I'm going, well, what's the orientation here? If I can work out the orientation, then, all you have to do is really be interested. And then what's the goal for the next 12 to 18 months? So, for example, I had a team member who said to me, well, my dream for the next 12 to 18 months, he said, I really want to propose to my girlfriend. And I was like, right, okay. So how are we going to do that? And so he had some milestones that he wanted to achieve. And so we said, okay. So, I knew when that was coming and what he wanted to do. And then he said, I would like to get married. I'd like to have children. And, he's been with me for what, 6 years now. And his passion is his family. His passion is that. So, for me, it's about how do I create a work life that helps to optimize that so that he brings his best self to work. And so, but as a result, I've got, great commitment, focus, attention to detail. He values the role. He's always keen to learn. So I think when you buy into, yeah, you've got these goals in the role, but what are you trying to do outside of work? If you can work that out, then for you as the leader, you know what you can work with. And then therefore far more about, well, great, she gets me. There's more to me than just the things that I'm processing or doing. I'm me as a human being. If I can tap into, we have a saying, their job is to make my life easier. My job is to make their life better. So if you are improving your life, that we know that they're achieving their potential, then they're going to stay, and I'll be able to help them achieve what they're trying to achieve as well.
Yeah, I love that saying. Your job is to make my life easier, and my job is to make your life better. I think, yeah, that's great. The next question I always feel like is it's such a big question, but it's the shortest question. And what I ask is that all the things that you've learned in business, like whether you want to do that as tips, Jane, to say, here's a couple of recurring themes, or here's a couple of, things that I've learned that I keep applying, doesn't matter what angle I take in the business, or perhaps it's, the people that you're helping. So I'd love to just like a couple of your learnings that you've had
Yeah.
in running a bunch of your businesses, but also helping a bunch of other business owners.
Yeah. Well, I think for business owners, one of the reasons why we go into this game is to have freedom, but freedom needs structure. So without structure, and I mean, you're the master of this with systems and everything you've built in the businesses you've built, Shivani, and the structure that you've created. You know what it's like, and that, if you haven't got structure and systems and processes, is that that creates a whole lot of chaos, and which is the total opposite. Then you feel like you've got this ball and chain on you. So number one would be have a structure, have a plan, and whether that means you're talking to going to an advisor, someone who's trod the path before you. Say, I don't want to learn on the run. I want to, I need a plan. I need to know where this is going so that I can make decisions. And then the second thing is focus on your customer. Listen to what they need. Listen to what they're asking for, and have a mindset of the customer for life. You can have customers for life instead of trying to find new customers all the time and new clients all the time. Is if you really look after the ones you've got, you'll have customers for a lifetime.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful in terms of just, the simple stuff, but the simple stuff's not done very well often, is it? It's the repetition of it. I remember somebody saying once to me, and I don't remember who it was, Jane, and they said, a boring business is a profitable business. And
That's right.
right? And so when you've got the systems, when you do the same thing over and over again, whether it's for your health or whether it's for your business, it's that repetition of it, isn't it? In terms of being able to do it.
That's
Jane, I
right.
also wanted to know, like, at the moment, there's so many people that are talking about AI and the impact of their on their business, but we've always got some sort of challenges. People have always got a challenge that's coming in. I want to know how Jane Anderson thinks. Do you have a process? Do you have a ritual? Do you journal? Like, something comes your way and you go, right, that's a problem. I've got to sort of work through that or think through that or systemize through that problem. How do you go about doing it? How do you address that challenge? Again, happy whether it's work or personal, but I'm always curious to know how people address challenges and problems when they come their way.
Yeah, I had one just over Easter actually. It was a big thing with some of the work I'm doing, and I was just had to kind of go, okay, what would I do? And I remember seeing a video of, Maya Angelou, who has some beautiful quotes. And there's a really great video where she talks about when she goes on stage, she brings all her mentors or all her people with her, and she says, we're here together. Like, she talks about being on stage and bringing all those with her to speak on stage. And so I tend to do something similar if I'm going through something I'm trying to work out. So it was a really strategic thing. I did it. I needed the space over. I used Easter to do it, but I just tap into. I bring my board of directors around me, and they're often people who I've either worked with in the past, they know me well, have mentored me. And I go, what is the question here I'm trying to solve? And then I visualize each of those people and I just say, what would they say? And what would they say? And what would they say? So I have a little virtual board of directors that, I've gotten to know over the years. And sometimes I might call or talk to them if I'm really struggling. But, I think when you, a bit like you, sometimes you've been in business a long time. And it's not saying that you know everything sometimes, but I think we know more instinctively than sometimes we give ourselves credit for. But I visualize my mentors around me and I just ask the question, if I had them here, what would they say? And, it's usually pretty clear once you start to answer that one.
That's great, isn't it? And I love that Maya Angelou quote. It's almost like I've heard certain speakers talk about bringing even their lineages back in, right? They bring
Yeah.
their ancestors. I know that when we are listening to acknowledgement of country in certain places, being Australians with our, fellow Aboriginal people, that you sort of feel that lineage sort of coming in and sort of bringing all the people in there. That's beautiful. Jane, you've achieved like 70 awards. Oh, so like when I read the CV, I was trying to read it at 3x speed because I basically get through it. What about your future aspirations and passions? Like, what are some of the things you go, I want to do more of that, or I haven't done that at all, and I want to do that. Take me through some of the things that you've thought about or, that you still want to do, both
Yep.
work and outside.
Yeah, in work, well, it's interesting you talk about AI. So, one of the things I'm playing with at the moment is not just for me, but to be able to help those I help, is how do you clone yourself into AI that you can create a leveraged way to help your clients. So, for example, that you've got an app, and if I could say, Shivani, what would I do with blah? You can pick up your phone and say, I can be driving to the coast or something, and I go, you know what, I'm going to have a chat with Shivani today, and so you've got years and years of expertise, wisdom, knowledge, and all the IP and assets that you've built over the years is to be able to put it into some place that people can ask, at a time that suits them without them feeling uncomfortable, embarrassed, whatever it might be. So that's one thing that is the project for this year. And then the other one is I am working on what I think is the evolution of personal branding. Personal branding is where I started in my business. And then it sort of eased off and infiltrated into a lot of things. And so now I'll probably pull that out and do. I think I'm ready for the piece of work that I would have liked to have done 10 years ago, and I just haven't been able to do it. But it's been an itch that's there, so it's time to probably pull that out. But outside of work, we've got a couple of things like retreats overseas that I've wanted that have been on the bucket list this year, and those types of things. So that'll be fun. And but outside of work is will really just be it's probably it's been out trying to allocate just a little more time. So long weekends, things like that with my husband. I have the most patient husband in the world. And so I promised him this year, I said, oh, we'll get some more breaks in and we'll do some other things. It's his turn now. He's been very supportive for me.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that notion of taking turns. Scott and I have that discussion every 5 years that we take turns
Right. Okay.
in terms of careers and yeah, and do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which I can
Right.
talk to you about as well.
Yes.
Jane, when you're giving so much of yourself, like you have to manage your wellness and your own wellness, and particularly there's a lot of discussion now around mental wellness. Do you have are there things that you do, whether it's daily or weekly or yearly? Do you go off to a retreat? What are some of the things that you do to manage your own wellness as you are giving so much to everybody else?
Yeah, great question. For us, as the work we're in, it's always you've got to have a pretty full bucket to pour from. So I try to get the basics. I always think if I can get the basics right, just try to get to bed, at a decent hour. I like to get up early, so I get a lot done early in the morning, so I've just got to get to bed for that. So that's one. I just always try to keep my water going, do my 10,000 steps. I bought a treadmill recently, just so that I got 5,000 in before I start the day, and then the other at the end before the day's done. So I've enjoyed doing that. I'm listening to more podcasts and things in the morning, and that sort of fires things up. I've also been fasting a bit more, so and just not eating as much. So I just don't really need to have as much food. So that's been good. In terms of once a month, I have a massage, so and a float. I find that really helpful. I really enjoy that. Because I can tend to get quite tense. So I always find that anything like that, I have a wonderful masseuse who I go to. She's Japanese and she's just gorgeous. And, I think I enjoy just chatting to her for an hour, but it's just as nice. And then otherwise, it just make, I also, every 6 weeks, I have a long weekend, and every 12 weeks, I have a client-free week. So that means that I might do some things, I might do some work things, but I potter around, clean up, cleanse, different things like that I might do. So I'm still there if it's urgent, but I just like some space once a quarter, and I find that really helpful. And then we try to have a bit of a holiday at some stage, a winter and a summer week somewhere. But yeah, I find that routine is good. But the thing that I found that's really helped is is having a support person. So in our world, we have VAs, EAs, or my assistant, is I've trained her in my wellness routine so she can make sure I do it. So she runs the calendar. It's not much point in me trying to run it by myself and then she's putting other things in over it. So I really had to get her buy-in because she runs the schedule. And then of course, that was she could have her routines as well. But I just otherwise, it's really easy to just go, oh well, oh, I won't get to do it this week or it doesn't matter but I just find I need an accountable buddy to make me do it.
Yeah, that's fantastic, isn't it? And not many people think of that, Jane, to go, how do I train my assistant to help me manage my wellness? Like that is super cool because then they're actually doing it for you, or at least scheduling it in. And for most of us, particularly in the world of sort of speaking, coaching, consulting, facilitating, if it's in your diary, you do it. If it's not in your diary, you kind of do it. Jane, tell me a little bit about some of the work that if people want to kind of book you, if people want to contact you, like what would I, as a coach, consultant, speaker, facilitator, what sort of work would I be booking Jane Anderson for? And then also tell me about what some of the platforms, where is the best places for people listening to this podcast or watching this, can find you. So they go, yeah, this is a woman I want to speak to. And how do we go about doing both of those things?
Thanks, Shivani. Yeah, so well, I'm on LinkedIn, so if people want to, usually around there, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, you're welcome to jump on there. And we're on the website, jane-anderson.com.au. So if people want some help, I usually help a lot of women who have thought leadership, consulting, and advisory practices that are selling business to business. And then later this year, I'll bring my executive work back in, which is a little more around helping executives to really elevate and create that magnetic personal brand and executive presence that is becoming a bit more prevalent now. So all those people skills are all coming right back. So not that they went anywhere, but I think just with AI, human connection, all those things, it's just so jump on LinkedIn, Instagram, and they're the type of areas I can help.
Beautiful. It's been such a pleasure. I'm so glad that I finally got you on the podcast. Thanks for making the time.
Thank you, Shivani. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us on the Passion Institute podcast. If today's episode sparked a new idea or inspired you to maybe take some action or helped you see a business in a new light, we would love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe. It really helps us present a great show. Leave a review and share this episode with other fellow entrepreneurs and leaders who also are ready to make an impact. Remember, passion is the fuel for greatness, and every step you take brings you closer to your vision. Keep dreaming big, leading with purpose, and making waves in the world. Until next time, stay passionate, stay inspired, and keep building your legacy. This is your host, Shivani, and signing on from the Passion Institute podcast. See you soon.